Good evening and good morning. Welcome to another session of Psychic Education, where we are reading the words of Mother and Sri Aurobindo through a workbook by N Huppes. So as we begin, just starting with the prayer that we usually start with. If anybody would like to read it for us, they can unmute and do so. Otherwise,
Yeah, Taru, I'll read.
please, yes.
Yeah. Lord, we pray to thee. May we understand better why we are here. May we do better what we have to do here. May we be what we ought to become here, so that thy will may be fulfilled harmoniously. Dear Mother, thank you.
Yes, thank you. There was a message circulated in the groups some time back, and it said something of the effect that for a mother, for Mother in Sri Aurobindo, for the divine, basically, your value is what you have given to the divine. So, although it's nothing new, and yet when we look within, when we look without, when we wonder, what is it that I have given? We realize that so much of me is always about getting, right? And why am I not able to give? Why does the thought even, not cross me mostly? So, it might sound like simple words that, yes, do better, understand better, or become. And yet, I don't know if we give it the importance in our lives, maybe even, a minute of a day. Are we even wanting to understand? What does it even mean to better understand why we are here? To do better what we have to do here. Do I even believe that that's even something I need to do? Is there something I'm here for? Very, very, very occasionally, maybe I might think, but usually it's just, life sets in and there I go. Yeah. So, psychic education, sharing the workbook. So last week we had taken up these two, these two passages from the Mother. So they were so we're just rereading them just because it's beautiful to reread them, and then we'll move forward. Just the passages. So the starting point is to seek in yourself that which is independent of the body and the circumstances of life. So, how to find the psychic being was the question. And the Mother, along with other ways, she said, the starting point is to seek in yourself that which is independent of the body and the circumstances of life, which is not born of the mental formation that you have been given, the language you speak, the habits and customs of the environment in which you live, the country where you're born, or the age to which you belong. The beautiful series of questions, rather it's just one question, and replacing, these you with I can really help us connect and reflect more about what is important and who am I. So that is this, Mother says, would get us slowly in touch with the psychic. And then this was the last one. The divine presence is in you. It is in you. The presence is there. You want the appreciation of others to get strength. You will never get it. The strength is in you. If you want, you can aspire for what seems to you the supreme goal, the supreme light, supreme knowledge, supreme love. But it is in you, otherwise, you would never be able to contact it. If you go deep enough inside you, you will find it there, like a flame that is always burning straight up. Yeah. Mm. This line always gets me that if you want the appreciation of others to get strength, because that's a lot of why we do a lot of things. My mother says, you will never get it, period. But somewhere we keep assuming we will be exceptions to the rules, which we never are. Okay, good. So if anybody would like to read, we can begin with you must and take up the whole section till the end of here. And yeah. Yeah, Charuji, would you only go ahead? Shilpa usually is in office and yeah.
Yeah, I'll read. You must have experienced that for the discovery of the psychic, you have to go deep, really deep within. After you have perceived the gentle beauty of the psychic presence, the next step is to remain aware of this presence while going through your daily actions. After this comes the stage of learning to obey the innermost presence so that more and more of your daily actions are guided by the psychic and have the psychic touch. Do not expect quick results because it always takes time to acquire new habits. But if you are open and trust the new way of life can blossom in you, you may be in for beautiful experiences. New habit. It is part of psychic living to be receptive to the divine presence and to remain in contact with the inner world while living in the outer world. This asks for living in a concentrated way. It means that you must be concentrated and connected within while you observe yourself going through your daily actions. Taru, I'll read this sentence one more time. It means that you must be concentrated and connected within while you observe yourself going through your daily actions. In the beginning, you feel yourself living on two planes at the same time. Later, the inner one becomes the leading one and directs the actions of the outer plane. A time comes when you feel uncomfortable whenever you lose your inner connection. As soon as you feel this, you must try to reopen the inner connection. Sometimes this is difficult because you are in the midst of an action that takes all your attention. Try as soon as this action is finished to give yourself a few minutes to go within and re-establish the contact. When you learn something new, it will become only a habit when you practice it regularly. In the beginning, it is best to give yourself humorous reminders to keep up the practice. You could put a tiny sticker on your watch to remind yourself. You could place a workbook right on your desk or in the center on your bed before leaving your room so that you have to notice when you come home. You can also give yourself inner reminders. For example, many people are able to wake up exactly at the same time they decide to wake up before going to sleep. In the same way, you can tell yourself to be reminded to concentrate within exactly at say 10 a.m. It helps when deciding the time if you also visualize the place where you will be at that time. If you go through this workbook with a few colleagues, decide on ways to remind each other.
Yes, I think we can stop pause here. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
So what I understand from this is that, once we are able to feel the presence, then we have to make an effort towards becoming more and more aware of this presence in our everyday life and actions. And, everything takes effort in the beginning, we know that. If we have ever seen a child who is learning to walk, the number of times he falls, it's unbelievable. Like if it was an adult, I don't know if how much more difficult it would be with their egos and giving ups. So once a contact has been established or once even a sight has been seen, the next step is to remain aware of this presence while going through your daily actions. After this comes the stage of learning to obey the inmost presence. So it's like number one, getting in touch, number two, trying to stay in touch, and number three, almost it's like now that you're in touch, you obey, learn to obey the innermost presence so that more and more of your daily actions are guided by the psychic and have the psychic touch. Do not expect quick results because it always takes time to acquire new habits. But if you're open and trust that a new way of life can blossom in you, you may be in for beautiful experiences. This again brings us to an important question that do I want it, right? A lot of things I want because I feel they would add value to my life in general, right? Everybody talks about the psychic. Let me see what the psychic is. Maybe I can get in touch. It's like any other task that I usually pick up in life. And yet, I guess sadhana would go, I mean, it can start with that, and that's beautiful. Anything that motivates us. Do you know how mother says that be good for the sake of being good? So we, I don't know, aspires because we know the way that we are living is not the right way. It's just too much drama, too much suffering, unnecessary, unneeded. I don't remember the name, but there's this lady who sings Kabir songs. I think Bhanumati, her name is. She has beautiful songs and some recordings on the YouTube. And I think it was her, I'd heard it a long time back that she was, sharing. Monica had shared that with me that, if say I'm working in the kitchen and suddenly something happens, like I drop something or I cut myself a bit or burn my finger, that moment helps me realize, oh, I wasn't here fully. So these are the cues I take to come here to myself again and again and again. So just like that, we all would have our own cues, our own ways in which we realize, through which we realize that, oh, I wasn't here anymore. Oh, let me come back. Yeah. that I think it's from Savitri or not, I don't know, that everything is possible when the gods touches there, and it is there, the psychic touch. Yeah, any reflections on what we have read? Okay, so then we are being told about this new habit that we were just, you know, briefed about in the first passage. So it is part of psychic living to be receptive to the divine presence and to remain in contact with the inner world while living in the outer world. So maybe we didn't need these divisions, but because these divisions are there the way we live our lives, so I guess that's why these words are also used so strongly. So this asks for living in a concentrated way. It means that you must be concentrated and connected within. So I must be concentrated and connected within while I observe myself going through my daily actions. And this is what we see in our sharing. A lot of times, that okay, I was doing this and then I realized, oh no, no, this is not okay. And so this is the observation, this is the connection that we are being told to have. So that if something is coming from me, I have to agree with that. I have to allow that. I have to approve that. But when I speak about it like this, it sounds too big of a chore, right? Oh, I approve each and every thought. Oh, I approve each and every word. But once we begin, it doesn't seem like a big thing. It seems quite natural. And then we forget and then we remember again. So observing what's going through, what's in being connected while you observe yourself going through your daily actions. In the beginning, you feel yourself living on two planes at the same time. Later, the inner one becomes the leading one and directs the action of the outer plane. So sounds great because we know what the case is currently, mostly. So a time comes when you feel uncomfortable whenever you lose your inner connection. As soon as you feel this, you must try to reopen the inner connection. Sometimes this is difficult because you're in the midst of an action that takes all your attention. Try as soon as this action is finished to give yourself a few minutes to go within and re-establish the contact. There was this, I think, another thing that we have seen before, that a child had asked the mother, that mother say, when I'm playing football or whatever, basketball, I don't remember, how do I remember you then? All the time. And mother says that remember me before you begin, remember me as soon as you finish. So that's how we begin. And this uncomfort we have all felt, right? Like whenever there's something, say we are about to say something, and something in us feels we shouldn't say this. Do something, and something in us feels we shouldn't be doing this. So this discomfort we have all felt when we are not listening to that inner voice. Becoming more aware of that, and like it said, right, obey, learning to obey the innermost presence, learning to obey. That's also it's not that now that we know it's the inner voice we would be like yes, yes. For us that too also would take some effort, that yes, I hear you. Yeah, anything, feel free anytime to unmute, of course. So this was very simple. Yes, Vishal.
Yeah, I think one thing just to add, I mean, everybody's uses it differently. I find the disturbance is more easy to catch, right? So basically, and I think the saying and all, of course, I think that is 100% there. But sometimes it's also small things in life that pull you down, right? And you see your poise has been disturbed, like basically your state of uh that peace. I mean, this is what I think the psychic. There's just a quiet calmness about it. It's just like very, as Shubham says, it works from behind, right? So it's does not impose, but you feel a natural state of joy because that is how it is. And I think we all experience that, and we have that touch in those moments. As in Savitri says, when the inner lamps are lit, right? So that I think happens, but then you lose it so easily, and you say, okay. But I think one of the things I find helpful is, you know, it can be whatever. It can be what somebody said, what happened at work, your personal interaction, what somebody said or what somebody didn't say, right? And you just like will then you see, okay, well, then there's a disturbance. Then that is, I think, helpful. You can look at that very closely and say, why is this there, right? And that obviously most of the time comes to ego. So some of those things are more difficult for me, at least I find. There's certain things that I see it, and then I'll say, okay, this is definitely, I'll try to offer it, whatever works. Then again, maybe in a day that same thought will come up, right? I do not know if others have that same experience. Right? What? Why? Why did this have to go this way? Right? It's so comical, but it plays. Now I'm trying something where I'll actually say, okay, if somebody even did something that was maybe rude or whatever, in my mind I did not like, right? Uh, I say, well, see, the person basically, I mean, it's a blessing, right? He's showing me something that is a chink in my own thing. You think, oh, okay, I don't get bothered by what people say. Of course you do. Then I like, okay, this is like a lot of work still needs to be done here, right? So that's so I find the negative thing, you know, better uh, as far as the work, and I think that is normal. I feel as long as you don't get carried away, but I think it's normal. I personally feel to absorb. So I do what like you just said. Just remember in the beginning, remember sometime in between, remember at the end. That I find easier.
Yes, thank you. And I think that's what it is being meant here, that a time comes when you feel uncomfortable whenever you lose your inner connection. Because every time, if I'm poked and I'm reacting, or whenever I'm poked and I'm reacting to specific situations, I lose that touch. It feels kuch galat ho raha hai, that feeling is there. And then slowly, our sensitivity to that thing gets more and more increased. So if I'm used to stress, so much stress, I am just used to it. It doesn't bother me. But slowly that unpeace, it feels like, सांस नहीं आ रही. सबसे पहले इसको देखो कि क्या हो गया. What did I do? What just happened? Why am I going haywire? So yes, thank you for reminding and, elaborating on that. That yes, that's a very good way to see that, oh, I'm lost again. Yeah.
I think once you had posted, Naru, that about smile, and we don't realize how powerful that is. I think this natural joy when you don't have the smile, I mean, it's a sure sign that there is something wrong, right? I think mother says, never grumble. All
Mm.
sorts of forces enter into you when you grumble. I remember that so many times. I'm like, because now grumbling does not mean that I'm saying something to somebody else. I'm grumbling inside, right?
Mhm.
So I still, that's a very beautiful thing to remember.
Yeah, most definitely. So, sometime back I was going through something and it felt like it's going against my, I don't know. essence or whatever, and I was like revolting, and although I had to do it, and it was very uncomfortable, and I was quite not happy, to put it mildly. And then this message was shared about the smile. Then just smile, like, and if you're despairing, you're being insincere. And although I didn't feel like smiling, I was like, okay, I can try that. Like, although I'm not feeling like it at all. And I would say that it really helped. Like something just shifted. You know how sometimes you're just waiting for something and something is given to you and it shifted to just, I'm sharing this just so that we know that it truly works, that it felt that there was something on me which got lifted when I opened myself to truly smiling again, even when I was kind of starting without the happiness factor, the joy factor, and yet it worked beautifully.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I remember it, because that day when you posted it, for some reason I was upset about something. I do not remember what. And I saw that message, and it was like the perfect thing I needed to see. I was really interesting, how these things happen. We see this kind of, the right message, and, these things become common, right? So yes, I quite relate to that, what you just said. It just shifted, that
Mhm.
one statement just shifted the whole consciousness.
Yeah. And another thing which I find, I mean, I don't know, we've been doing harmony circles for maybe 3 years or 2 years, I don't know the date, the duration, but every time, mostly, whatever the topic is, I know Charuji would resonate with that because she's one of the people who says this, that it feels that we are all going through the same thing. That if there's a topic and everybody will be like, oh my God, this is what I was struggling with, like there's 7 people coming from 7 different lives and I don't know, whatever. And yet it feels that yes, yes. So it's very strange how sometimes things work that way a lot of times when it feels this is what I was needed, and some help through a word of a master, through a practice is given to us, is sent to us to help us overcome. Yeah, Charles, would you want to say something?
No, no, by mistake it got.
Mhm. Okay. So yeah, we have read the tips. So it's like sometimes I don't know, I am told that no, what I'm doing is enough and it's enough. We don't need to do anything extra. But if it was enough, more of me would have been more established by now. So maybe that little extra is needed. So again, it is about that practice that we had been discussing about, that we have to make this habit, we have to practice regularly, this connecting within these exercises that were given. So this was very simple. Give yourself reminders and whatever works for us. We know ourselves, right? At least we should know ourselves that what gets me motivated, what kind of reminders work for me. So various things were given on that. Okay. So we do have time. We can let's read, keep up the work on the outer beats, and then we can read these worksheets, inspiration. So if anybody has a capacity, they can read it for us. Thank you.
Keep up the work on the outer being. You may ask, once I concentrate on the psychic discovery, can I forget the outer being and leave it as it is? You cannot just forget about your outer being once you have started the search of your psychic being. Your outer and inner mind, vital, and body still need a lot of attention. It is outer nature that creates obstacles and stands in the way when you want to be in contact with the psychic. In your outer nature, there are many things that contradict the truth of your innermost nature. So you have to continue to observe yourself constantly so that you recognize what stands in your way. You have not only to observe the outer nature, but also teach it not to go against your psychic being, not to stand in the way, so that your psychic can come to the foreground. That is the first work. The next work is to become master of the obstacles. That is the self control. The mother talks about when she says that the science of living is to know oneself and control oneself. There are more about removing obstacles and self control in the next chapter. Yeah, there's a worksheet called Inspiration. What fans your aspiration? That's the first question in the worksheet. The next one is, in a difficult situation, how do you get back again to a deeper level of consciousness? How do you overcome feelings of hurt? What makes you calm and open to the inner silence? Repeating a mantra, looking at a photograph, listening to meditative music, anything else? What gives you inner joy? How do you keep in touch with that? That is in capital. What is your telephone number of the divine?
Yeah, thank you. The last one is so interesting. Yeah. So we'll just take this up, that keep up the work on the outer being. So we know that our outer and inner mind, vital body need our attention. And we know it is our outer nature that creates obstacles in the way when you want to be in contact with the psychic. You want to sit in stillness, and yet there's so many thoughts, or this pain, or that pain, or this needs urgent attention, or that needs, or anything. Somebody, I don't know, not well, itching, paining. We know all the dramas we do. And we know that in our outer nature, there are many things that contradict the truth of my innermost nature. I think this is really important that we have seen it, but do we officially recognize it? That yes, in my outer nature, there are many things that contradict the truth of my innermost nature. It often appears to me that, the one who goes to bed, talking about myself, thinking that, oh, I'll be waking up at 5, is not the same person who is, kind of switching off the alarm at 5, because they don't seem to have anything in common. So, in your outer nature, there are many things that contradict the truth of your innermost nature. So, you have to continue to observe yourself constantly so that you recognize what stands in your way, right? That a lot of time, more, how would we know what we have to work towards, what is working against me, if I don't even know what is helping me and what is coming on in my way? Although it comes, but we don't notice, we don't classify, we don't categorize, we don't recognize our enemies and our friends. And now, if we are serious about, purification and getting in touch and staying in touch and obeying the order, so one must continue to observe oneself constantly so that I know more about myself, which sounds silly that all I say is I'm this body, I'm this body, I'm this body. And yet there's so much I don't know about myself, which we discover more and more and more. So you have not only to observe the outer nature, but also teach it not to go against your psychic being, not to stand in the way so that your psychic can come to the foreground. You know, a lot of this is also reminding me of Jet Sunmala Tenzin Palmo. You know, she says that mind is, where we live. And how friendly are we with the mind? How friendly is our mind to us? Are we, kind of walking towards the same place? So become friends with your mind. A lot of times I know maybe we don't want to do something, and then like a child you coax yourself, oh, just 2 minutes, just 5 minutes. I don't know if you're doing Surya Namaskar after 10, you're like, no more. And it's like just two, just two. So those things we have all done. So we know. And it said, the body is capable of anything. It's just the mind that comes in between. And we had seen that, when we had, I don't know how many of us were there in the Harmony Circle, we had discussed about this person. I don't remember her name, Nada. I don't know. I mean, there's this person who had she swam from Florida to Cuba, or Cuba to Florida to Cuba. And she had tried it when she was in her late 20s or something. And she couldn't.
Diana Nair.
Yeah, just say that again.
Diana Nair.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Meera. So, so there's a movie on it now. So she had wanted to do that. Meera, would you like to just, because I've been talking so much, would you like to just give a synopsis of that?
Yeah. So
Thank
I
you.
watched the movie recently, actually. So this is she as she Saru was saying. So she in her on her 60th birthday, or the year before she turned 60, she suddenly felt purposeless in life. And one of her friends asked her that, what is it that you want to do on your 60th birthday? And it suddenly strikes her that, I'm going to do the impossible. I'm going to swim from like Cuba, Florida to Cuba, or one of those stretches. And this is something that has never been done by anyone, let alone someone who's 60 years old. So then the friend tells her that you're gone crazy, and like you're just completely lost it when you're 60. 60 is the time to relax and retire and not take to all these adventurous things. So the movie very beautifully like captures how she fails at least 5 times. She gets stung by jellyfish. There are shark in the sea, and every time she goes and she comes back. And there's one time, I think, when she was 63, she gets so badly stung by the jellyfish that her survival becomes very difficult. But she comes to the hospital, and then she wakes up and she asks her friend, when is the next swim? And everybody's completely shocked. They actually think that she's gone mad. But every time she finds a solution, they develop like a jellyfish swimsuit, so that she's disguised. They find a way to like ward away the shark. And finally she does do it when she is 65, and she crosses it, and supposed to be like an unassisted swim, which has no one has ever done before. But the level of mental strength, that despite everything, despite failing so many times, she didn't let it surpass. And the most I mean, maybe the funny part of the movie is how self-confident she is, sometimes too overly self-confident then. But yeah, that was the movie.
Yes, thank you. So again, that mind over matter, mind over body, that thing is really there. So once I've decided something, if the mind is at it, if the mind doesn't say, "Okay, okay, let's give up," the body can go through anything. And that thing is so apparent when one watches that movie. It feels impossible that, ye ho kya raha hai? Ye how is that possible? And one other thing, she when it's like when she would swim, say if she loves a song, so she says like she will say it 10,000 times, and she knows that if I've sung it 10,000 times, back to back, back to back, back to back, she knows that she has been in water for 7 hours. So 7 hours of swimming has been done. And I was thinking, when I'm counting, say 1 to 10 when I'm meditating, or 100 to 0, whatever, उसमें भी बीच में I forget कि on which number was I at times. And there she is in the water, swimming for hours and hours, and she's able to remember that, okay, 999. This is this song. Like, how amazing is the brain? How amazing can be my focus? Yes, Vishal ji.
No, no, no. Pretty incredible. What is the name of the movie? I'd like to watch it if it's available. Meera was
Nayad.
mentioning. What is it?
Yeah,
Sorry?
the movie is called Nayad, Nyad.
NY18. Yeah.
I
Okay.
think it
Yeah, it
means
sounds.
water in a different
Oh, okay.
language. Yeah. And that was her
Mhm.
surname. Yeah. Nayad. Yeah. Okay, so I should ask the publicist of the movie. I've been promoting it too much, but it was beautiful. Yeah. Yeah, so sorry, I was what Jet Samala says, that make your mind a good place to be, because we don't really live in houses. We live in our minds. And Vishal, what you were sharing before, that for that also, she says that a lot of times, she said that initially, especially like when somebody was horrible to me, and I could see, I have this thing, okay, I've gone over, I have crossed over this nature. Something is horrible, somebody is horrible, and I'm again feeling some anger or some insult coming up, what you were sharing in your sharing before. She says that, then I would quickly say that, oh, thank you, thank you for being so horrible to me, because now I know that it's still living in me and there's more to do. So rather than being angry, which we always are as default, her is very sweet when she says that. Yeah.
Yeah, sure, sure. But no, he says that, I mean, what they did, right? I mean, anybody who's read Tales, I don't know if you'll have read, Tales of Prison Life. I mean, the smallest bathroom that you can think of, living 1 year in that and everything happening in there, right? Anyways, so I mean, what, he went through, and he says they were my biggest benefactors, right? He has that, so it's incredible, right? Like, I think he says a beautiful thing that he says, I was with learned men and uh, you know, you know, people, of authority, and I got bored, and God put me with like thugs and thieves, and then He showed me the divine, right? I mean, this is the irony of it. It's not easy to think that way, but yeah, I mean, you really, at a deeper level, you have to thank them, because that is actually, obviously we all love the people that, we get along with, but they are showing you where you need work. So definitely.
Yes, thank you. So just repeating this, that you have not only to observe the outer nature, but also teach it not to go against your psychic being, not to stand in the way so that your psychic can come to the foreground. That is the first work. The next work is to become master of the obstacles. That is the self control the mother talks about when she says that the science of living is to know oneself and control oneself. So I think here the second part aspect, because the first one, to know ourselves, we are all trying, right? And yet we lot of times just stop at knowing ourselves. I know this makes me angry, and every time that happens, I'm getting angry. I'm not able to control myself. When Ritu read it, I was reminded of a funny incident, I think maybe 5 years back or something. I was having a fight, a verbal fight with my partner, and I was here, he was in front of me, and just like when I was looking at him, I could see mother's picture on my table. And he's saying something, I'm saying something, and I'm looking at the mother. He's saying something, I again saying something, looking at the mother. And then I wanted to be like really mean, and I just couldn't say that okay, because I was looking at the mother. So I went, I turned the picture and I said what I had to say. Like rather than stopping or seeing that as a cue that, ruk ja, chup kar. I actually, and I know I've shared this before, I find it funny that, we find our ways around, like the universe is telling us, stopping us, and yet we in our, I don't know, delights and fights, we know the way around how to circumvent this and that. And I turned it and I said all I had to say. So nothing to laugh about. I should cry, but yeah, laughing feels easier. Yeah. Okay. So then there is this worksheet on inspiration. So again, when we are talking about self-observation, when we are talking about knowing about ourselves, for us, again, knowing about ourselves is like, okay, what do you like? What do you like to eat? Where do you like to go for a walk? What kind of clothes do you like? What is your favorite ice cream flavor? These are the things that we want to know. Which is your favorite movie? Who's your favorite actor? These are the things that we know about ourselves and about each other most of the time, and we say that we know. So this is not the knowing that we are talking about here. I mean, that is good. And yet now going in further, because we're talking about depths, we're talking about inner being. Now that we have known about the chocolates and ice creams, switching over to, or in addition, adding that what fans my aspiration? When is it higher? When is it deeper? When is it more constant? So when we are doing that 20-minute practice with psychic, for a psychic, these are something that we can think about, or during the day whenever we have kept aside a time for that. Like truly, when am I aspiring more? And the answer mostly is that when I'm suffering, when I'm in pain, most of us aspire more than that. Oh, take me out, I can't bear this. So, what fans your aspiration? Sitting with that question, going in with that question. So, in a difficult situation, how do you get back again to a deeper level of consciousness? Right? Because again, it's very reactive, right? Or it's like, oh, something just takes me over. I lose that connection. So, how do you get back again to a deeper level of consciousness? How do you overcome feelings of hurt? The answer could be, oh, I don't overcome. So, that's not what they are looking for. That's not what we are looking for, because if we don't overcome, we must overcome. They are not worth holding on to. The years and lifetimes we hold on to things and grumble about them, whine about them. So, how do I overcome feeling of hurt? And if I have not thought about it, thinking about it maybe will help me releasing, opening the fist. What makes you calm and open to the inner silence? Repeating a mantra, looking at a photograph, listening to meditative music, anything else. It could be all, it could be things that just vary. And yet, knowing that this helps me will help me to go for it directly, because, like we were discussing, that things are given to us randomly. Sometimes it really helps us. And yet, if I know this helps me, I can quickly go and, cut short the drama and be better and calm again. What gives you inner joy? How do you keep in touch with that? And the last one is, what is your telephone number of the divine? As in, something happens, I want to talk about it. I want to, kind of, I don't know, I feel connected when I'm connected with people and I put so much energy in that. These days, the telephones are so cheap. The WhatsApp call is like, no, I don't have to pay any money for that. So it feels like totally the excess is too much. And yet there used to be big charges for these telephone calls, right? Especially international. And yet there is a divine who has that connection. So, what is my telephone number of the divine? How do I call him? How do I connect with him? So, connecting within to know about that connection. Yeah, any reflection or thoughts on this worksheet?
You know, we well, just few things. One, I heard from somebody, and it resonated, and I also, use this like things that you get upset at, or whatever, you want to say something to somebody, or you want to react a certain way. And I think one of the things was, this person had said, is like, if you see, like, what is it that you actually want, right? And I think this is where the importance of, like if we truly want this, then all these other things, I mean, it could be whatever, right? And then you realize that they're so insignificant. So, but then again, you have to convince yourself of that is actually the case. And I think that was one thing that like hua nahi hua, I just say, okay, well, now at that moment it seems very important, because you're like, this was, but I really wanted this, or I really, whatever, that your expectation did not get met. And you just said, this is not important in what my aim is. Now, maybe for somebody else that is very important. That's fine. So that I find useful. I'm just sharing. And then the other thing, yesterday we had a program on the first, and some child read, like, the power of mother's voice, right? And it's in the book The Supreme. I think you all have seen that. We've seen that. So that is a beautiful book. And Mona Sarkar, mother says, that's her voice. I mean, it changes your consciousness. So you listen to her, and I remember I used to listen to her voice for Savitri. So I mean, this is just these things I find very helpful, and then of course reading Savitri, I think truly has the power to change. And certainly I feel like, when we attend, as you said, Taru, right, sessions, or I think this is the purpose they serve, is because we all have the same issues. So that helps, I think, this collective sadhanas, we say, it helps us all, because I mean, finally we are all, having to deal with the same things.
I think since we have read about the tips, maybe it's good to just read this also, the first step in the psychic discovery, and then we'll finish with this section. So, does anybody, would anybody like to read this for us?
I can read. The first steps in the psychic discovery. Daily set time for yourself in a peaceful place. During this time, go within as deep as you can, gradually going deeper and deeper. Look for the inner peace in a state of inner receptivity. Try to find your personal key that may open the door to the psychic, the divine in you. Give yourself reminders
to keep up the effort steadily. Be on the outlook for small positive changes in the quality of your life. Pay extra attention to such changes and let these help you to advance with greater trust and enthusiasm. The urgency, the harmonization and organization of the being around the divine center can only be done in a physical body and on earth. That is truly the essential and original reason for physical life. For as soon as you are no longer in a physical body, you can no longer do it at all. And yet, human beings come into a physical body without knowing why. Most of them go through life without knowing why. They leave their body without knowing why. And they have begun the same thing all over again indefinitely until one day someone comes along and tells them, be careful. You know there is a purpose to this. You are here for this work. Don't miss your opportunity. The result of contact with the psychic being. It brings with it such happiness, such confidence, such security as nothing else can give. The psychic is a steady flame that burns in you, soaring towards the divine and carrying with it a sense of strength which breaks down all oppositions. The mother. Beautiful.
Thank you. So again, it's being stressed, and I'm sorry for repeating that daily set time apart for yourself in a peaceful place. So one location, one time for this psychic discovery. We have been asked to give 20 minutes if possible. During this time, go deep within, as deep as you can, gradually going deeper and deeper. Look for the inner peace in a state of inner receptivity. Try to find your personal key that may open the door to the psychic, the divine in you. Give yourself reminders. Be on the outlook for small positive changes in the quality of your life. I think this too is quite important because we get demotivated very soon. And a lot of times, even if we see something positive, we disregard the positive, but we over exaggerate the negative. We have this tendency, a lot of us. So if we recognize this, it helps us in trying harder and going further. Pay extra attention to such changes and let these help you to advance with greater trust and enthusiasm. So without this होगा नहीं जल्दी तो अगर जल्दी करना है तो we have to give this time of our day our busy day. Yeah, and these two were beautiful. And when we read things like this, it wonders that how is this even possible? And yet we see this so often within and without. We don't know the whys, and it's as if we don't need to know the whys. That's what we are being told a lot of times. अरे छोड़ो बाद में सोचना पहले ये तो कर लो. So be careful, Mother says. And we always, because we don't do things without we are being told, without knowing what will we get in return. So here's again something from the mother, which of course would be true, and yet that we always need more and more reasons It's funny, but we do. So the psychic being, the contact with the psychic being, Mother says, it brings such happiness, such confidence, such security as nothing else can give. You know, we want happiness, we want confidence, the security. Mother has even gone so far to say that, Sri Aurobindo gives, his avatar basically was for security, to give you that security within, if I'm not wrong. So it is there. We know where to get the maximum, but we keep getting satisfied with the little and the instant. And of course, there's a time when we won't get satisfied and then we know where to go. So if we are ready, the psychic is a steady flame that burns in us, soaring towards the divine and carrying with it a sense of strength which breaks down all oppositions. So the at least this key is right in front of me if I want to use it. The beautiful quote from the mother. So this is where we'll end today. So any last comments, sharing, confessions, reflections?
Okay. I won't sing. So, this with the 20 minutes sitting and going deep within. So, I mean, how do we go deep within? So, these 20 minutes, can we listen to some meditation or can we listen to that psychic fire meditation? Or it has to be completely alone and trying to concentrate on the breath?
Heritu,
Or,
in this workbook only, na? So
Mhm.
that we have been reading, maybe you've also missed a few sessions in between when you were traveling. So उसमें बहुत clearly है, मतलब if you just want to revisit it, it's really simply put that they have even given exercises. कि, okay, when you are sitting for 20 minutes, you can reflect on these questions or questions like this. So no
Okay.
music, no nothing. You're just sitting with yourself. Like it is said, it is a time for self-observation. जैसे कहते हैं ना
Mhm.
स्वयं से साक्षात्कार, तो
Mhm.
समथिंग ऑफ दैट इफेक्ट कि अपने साथ बैठ के खुद को जान रहे हैं, नॉट इन द लूप ऑफ थॉट्स, नॉट गोइंग इन द पास्ट, नॉट इन द फ्यूचर. So like, there was this question that are you a kite or are you a, say
Okay,
that,
yeah, that
है
was
ना,
it
तो उस
ended.
so that is
Yeah.
where we had started. So that's how. And उसके बाद में, there were some meditations by the mother कि you can think and you can reflect on this. So very beautiful, clear guidelines are given. Like I don't think I've seen a more simpler, doable workbook than this one.
Like in this one, they say that he says that can think and sit and think about the ways in which you've improved.
Yeah. हाँ, मतलब वो तो ऑब्जर्वेशन भी है वो, बट वो जो वर्कशीट थी ना, जैसे जो आप विच यू रेड राइट, द वर्क, व्हाट डिड इट से, वर्कबुक, वर्क worksheets. So these type of tables are given throughout. So like this is what you will be thinking, what fans say your aspiration, if you want to sit and think about that.
Mm.
So these are the
Oh,
things. So meditations are separate. The sitting and concentrating are separate also. So they can be combined. And in addition, for self-observation to knowing self, these are the things that they are encouraging us, and they're saying we must think about or similar. When she had told us about the worksheet, she said follow any order, don't follow any order, go back or front. It's all, very flexible. Look at these questions, if you resonate or make more based on this, है ना, तो उस हिसाब से we have been given complete freedom. But this is what it is said would help us connect deeper within when we know about ourselves.
okay.
Yeah. So thank you for asking that again. We all need to hear that repeatedly. So we'll end here today. So just, do you want to say something, Ritu?
Nahi.
Okay. So thanking Grace, thanking the divine for the psychic education workbook, for the company, for this mind the ears, perception, comprehension, and this will, this curiosity, this desire to know more, to be more. But may I know the right thing, may I want to do the right thing, the highest thing, that is my possibility, so that this birth does not go waste. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Taru. Thank you, everyone.